Good afternoon, everybody. Nice echo in here. I'd like to welcome you to the December 18th, 2025 Public Utility Advisory Board meeting. Christina, would you call roll, please?
Brad Chance.
Present.
Mr. McGee.
Here.
Steve Lucky. McLucky.
Present.
Terry Martell.
Here.
Les Boatwright.
Here. I want to, before we go on to anything else, I want to say we're one member short. Michael Talcott has resigned from the PUAB. I want to thank him for his service to this committee. I always knew that Michael would bring a different point of view that we could kick around and discuss. So we're going to miss his perspective on things as we move forward. So wish him well, and I'm sure we'll see him around. But Michael, if you're listening, good luck to you. Okay, so we'll move on here to our first reports on finance and admin.
Good afternoon, everybody. Okay, if we want to look at our first page here of Power and Light. If we look at our total operating revenues, we budgeted $157 million. We've used $63 million of that to date. A percent from budget sitting around 7% total operating revenues. So it's always good to see. And then total operating expenses, if we come down, was only at 2% for the month. We kind of seen some of those expenses drop down. So it's always good to see total operating above total expenses. One other thing to note, if we look at our investment income line, we stay kind of conservative with this. Budget amount was around $500,000, but we're sitting at $1.3 million year to date. So it's always nice to see. And if we come down to the next page here, we can see capital projects amended was around $51 million. We've used around $500,000 of that year to date. And the following page has a list of our capital projects. Joe, I don't know if there's anything you want to point out on capital projects for IPL?
Not really, unless there's specific questions. I'd be more than happy to answer.
Any questions from IPO on the financials? No, I guess continue.
Okay, moving on to water. Amended budget was around $32 million. We're at $12 million year to date. Total operating revenues around 4%. And then coming down to expenses, I do want to point out we're hovering at close to 8% of expenses. If you see that debt service line, we'll see that number creeped up quite a bit. That's because we had some bonds that we paid in October. So that's where that debt service comes up. So we'll see that spike, and we'll see the same spike next November. And that was for water and WPC. You'll see that for both of those. Okay. And then coming down, amended total capital projects was $32 million. We've utilized $2.7 million of that year to date, and following a list of our cap projects.
Anything from municipal services to add on the capital projects? His head was cocked sideways. I wasn't sure if he was asleep or looking.
Sorry, I printed off my copy and left it on the printer, so I'm having to turn my head sideways to see what I'm looking at since I have it as a PDF. Nothing to add on the water side, no.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions on the water side finances? Okay, continue.
Sanitary sewer, total operating revenues, we're at 11.6 on the year with an amended budget of $35 million. Percent from budget is sitting around 0.91%. We do expect that to come up as more penalties and charges come through. And then total operating expenses at close to 5%. We'll also see that debt service line there, as I pointed out with water, is up around 40%. That's from 3 bonds that we paid for sanitary sewer in October. We'll see the same spike next year. Following page, our amended total capital projects is $21 million. We've used $1.5 million of that year to date, so plan on those still continuing. On the following page, you'll have a list of those capital projects as well, if you guys have any questions about those.
Anything on the sanitary sewer projects? Guess not.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we're down to municipal services.
Just a couple of quick updates for both plants. So the Rock Creek wastewater treatment plant, I know we've talked about the primary clarifier project. We are at about 99.8% done with that. So the walkthrough punch list was done earlier this week. All 4 primaries are up and running. There's just a few minor items, some general housekeeping that Rich Kemple walked through with the contractor to make sure they get done. So we're thinking that'll be completely wrapped up within the first week or 2 of the new year. So good to go there. The blower project, which was kind of part of this whole package, is completed. We've replaced the old antiquated extra oversized blowers and with new efficient blowers. So we're going to start saving some energy with that. Rich, I'm not sure if you had anything that you wanted to add on that one specifically, but we had an issue, a snafu with the building itself when they put them in. Otherwise, this would have been closed probably about 6-8 weeks ago, but we're good to go there. Also, with the Courtney Bend plant, obviously we've got the boil advisory that we can discuss later. I see that it's on the agenda for later, so I'll punt that. But we do have, council approved earlier this week the PO to replace our maintenance building. So it's a shop and a maintenance building. It was constructed in the mid-50s, so we've got all our money's worth out of it. Time to bring a new one in, so hopefully we'll start moving with that early spring.
Okay.
And any questions I can answer for y'all?
Anything for municipal services? Okay, not right now. IPL.
Okay, so I'll just go down the list. The first item you guys have is an update on AMI project manager, really is the program manager. Hoping to see that on the council agenda in January. I'd like to get them on board, and I would target February, hopefully, for them to come to the PUAB if we can get that contract executed and get them on board and come to this meeting and hopefully present a timeline in their execution and their thoughts around the process of installing AMI and what that all looks like and entails. So I sound like a broken record, but more to come, I think. But it's still moving through the wheels.
Okay.
Update on partnership with Independence Power Partners. So since the last time we met, we have executed both a purchase power agreement and an energy services agreement. I think there's been plenty of study sessions and other articles and lots of things out there about that. With that, the 2 phases of the purchase power agreement, Independence Power Partners are going to construct generation out at the Old Blue Valley Power Plant in 2 phases. Phase 1 will be 15 small combustion, natural gas combustion turbines. That'll provide about around 250 megawatts of power to provide the first phase of our energy services agreement with a major data center out in the Eastgate Commerce Center. And then phase 2 will be a combined cycle, about 850 megawatts of power for the second phase to come online by 2030. So we're targeting by the end of December of 2029 for that. That will be natural gas powered as well. So as you can imagine, there's a lot of moving parts right now between getting the generation installed online, hooked up to fuel and electrical input to the grid, and then also on the other side of the load side, the data center, trying to engineer and get all the things in motion to provide a switch yard to provide them power from the grid as well. You will see that there's a lapse between the PPA and the ESA. So the purchase power agreement starts in October of 2027 is when they expect that first phase to be online. But the energy services agreement has us providing power to the data center starting in October of 2026. So what I'm telling you is that you're going to see coming in front of the council in January will be some capacity contracts. If you guys recall, Oneta, we currently purchase capacity from them in order to meet our Southwest Power Pool reserve margin requirements that you have to provide all the energy that your city uses plus plus a reserve margin on top of that. So I'm going to be bringing some capacity contracts to the council to cover that October of 2026 to October 2027 timeframe. Let's see here. Those are kind of the big things. Without really going completely through the presentations, I'll be more than happy to take questions at this point in time. And if you guys want any clarification on stuff, I'll be more than happy to bring that. And we could talk about it now, or if you want to see parts of the presentation that I presented at council, I could bring that to next meeting as well and make a presentation. But I'm just going to ask for you guys, what information do you want to see from it, or what questions do you currently have?
Okay, are there, I'm doing two parts. Currently any questions for Joe on especially that second project, which is a pretty exciting project? Everybody kind of familiar with what's going on with that, okay? Then do you want him to bring anything to the next meeting, kind of partial presentation? This is the audience participation portion of the meeting. I'd like an answer from somebody.
I know better than to volunteer any more than I'm being asked for, so if you guys
Evidently,
want
the
stuff,
answer
I'll be
is
more than
no.
happy to bring that.
No, I think if we can hear from
Well,
the
then-
project manager in January, that'll probably cover the presentation. So.
Okay, and reach out anytime between now and the next meeting if there's certain things you want to see or questions that you have that you want me to present on. I'll be more than happy to bring that.
I know what I've read and what I understand about this Independence Power Partner. It was a monumental effort to get it put together. Hats off to you guys at IPL for putting that together. It's going to be a very interesting project for the city of Independence.
It has been a coordination on both sides of it, I would say, but yes.
Quite a dance. Yep. Good job there. Okay, we're down now to the IPL statistical charts. Should have them in your packet.
Good afternoon. I'm going to start with a comment about weather, which we'll get to at the end. This October has been higher average humidity and higher average temperature than the last 2 years, which you will see reflected in some of our kilowatt usage. If we're looking at the totals, we are up. That is primarily from residential and commercial. Industrial has tended to stay pretty flat. You will see the same trend following in your total billed revenue. We are up over the last 2 years in October, but still within kind of our normal average range. Residential and commercial contribute to the higher, and then our industrial is pretty flat. Cumulative kilowatt hours is right on target with the last 2 years, and our cumulative billed revenue is just about the same as last year. And then that next page is just demonstrating what I mentioned on your average temperature and your average humidity for October. So we are higher this year over the last 2 years, which you can see from your usage in your charts. And happy to answer any questions that you have.
I've been seeing comments on Independence Community Awareness page about people's bills being a lot higher. Was there a period of, where people didn't get their meter read because of weather, with any of that snowstorm we had or anything that would impact that?
So there was less weather impact days for reading meters, but we have been short-staffed and we've had some staffing issues, which has created times for us to have to estimate a few cycles of bills over the past month or so. So that's why you might be seeing some
That's
estimations.
kind of what I figured, but
Yeah, it was more, weather doesn't help, but it was more staffing issues at this point in time.
okay. All right, I just saw that and I figured that's what it was attributed to, the average bill, but you never know, so. Okay, go ahead.
A question about the staffing, is that kind of a chronic issue through the years, or is it particular something going on now?
So, without going into complete personnel
No.
details, you have to remember that that's one of the probably more dangerous jobs between linemen and meter readers that, traverse yards each and every day. And as I think we've probably reported in history, as one of the higher injury rates, just from the nature of that job. So when you have injuries, you have people with days off, and between that and vacations in the summer, they just got a little bit behind on a few cycles and trying to get caught up with that.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions? All right, thank you, Amy. You didn't know you were going to be a weather forecaster when you took the job, did you? Okay, we're down to the interim city manager.
All right, first item on the agenda for me is the IMC move. Move is still in progress. We had the Independence Lead group with the chamber out to tour the facility just earlier this morning. Municipal services obviously is completely moved in. Tech services and HR and finance are also completely moved in now. Community development is the biggest group that has a public facing component yet to move in, and they plan to move on December 29th. IPL is actively streaming in. Some members are in. I've seen several faces in the building. So some groups are moving slowly over time. Others are big coordinated effort like community development. The city manager's office also and legal are already in place at IMC as well. We anticipate our first council meeting being done at the Commons in March. The first meeting in March is what we're targeting. So our last meeting's at City Hall then, the end of February. The very last meeting in the council chamber would be the Planning Commission meeting that last week of February. Questions on the move?
This meeting here where we've been meeting in this facility, will we eventually move out to the Commons?
You will, and it is anticipated that this group will meet in the council chamber as well, just because we'll have streaming services there. So once that chamber is ready, then you would move to, so again, targeting that March date.
Okay, very good. Okay, thank you.
And then update on IPL governance. The council did meet, and go ahead and mark your calendars. Again, the last meeting got moved several times from when original discussions happened, but currently scheduled for 10 a.m. on January 13th. It's a Tuesday morning. And it is scheduled to be in Conference Room A at City Hall. Currently working to further refine the language on just what ends up in the charter itself versus what would be mandated by policy in a companion document down the road. Some of the bigger items currently just trying to land on would be the number of members on the board. I think we're landing on flexibility between 7 and 9.
Yeah, what I'd heard, on the little bit I heard about the discussion was maybe a range.
Yep.
Instead of a set number.
Just to give us more flexibility. And if we're too prescriptive, then we require a vote of the people every time that we need to make a modification. Since this is a new board, that seems to be not a corner we want to back ourselves into. Just trying to answer all the questions that the residents need to know and provide the information to give quality structure to this new board, but also not pigeonhole us to where if we need to adapt because it's new, that we can't do that. So that's a big piece. And then potential use and what's acceptable, flexibility for economic development related to IPL is another probably those are the top two issues that I think we're really still trying to land on.
Because I know when we did the charter amendment committee that I was on, we had quite a discussion on that very point about the economic and what to use and where to use it and when you can and can't use it. So
Yep.
I'll be interested in that discussion to see if it aligns with kind of what we thought on the charter review.
And then I think all the major things like, this board will have the authority to hire and fire the director, things like the director and only the director. Everything else then would be personnel matter handled by the director. So got that hashed out. Major sections like that are pretty much written. I am happy to give you that draft document that was reviewed just for your reference. Obviously now being cleaned up again.
Yeah.
And when I get the clean revised version, I will send it out to you
Yeah, please do.
when I send it out to council in advance of that January 13th meeting.
Yeah, please do.
Yes, qualifications, and if they were in residents of the city and or customers of the city, or if they were registered to vote in the city, and what language defined who was eligible to sit on the board. So
Okay.
questions on that?
Any questions on that governance? Nope.
Okay, and then update on the Independence Boil Water Advisory. Okay, so
How much time have you got?
I know that may be a what do you want to know, but overview for rehash probably because everybody's well aware. Courtney Bend Water Treatment Plant lost power on Monday morning about 6 a.m. Initially, we thought it was just an Evergy problem. Evergy had an outage somewhere and they'd get us back on. After some initial troubleshooting, it was determined that it was the city side transformer that had failed. We have a redundant feed, just like we do at Rock Creek. There's no generator at either site, just dual feeds coming into the plant. The transformer on the side that didn't fail was down for preventative maintenance. What are the odds? And then the other transformer did fail. So it fortunately was already scheduled to come back online that same day, but it was going to take about 6 hours of testing. As you can imagine, 6 hours stretched to 7, stretched to 8.
Yeah, especially when you're in a hurry.
Right. And people are constantly asking you for updates. And I know at one point I hit Rich up. I'm like, have you heard? And I was blowing Mike's phone up and I'm like, where are we at? And he's like, I don't know, Lisa. At some point we just have to let them work. No.
And that's why HR is involved. No, never mind.
Right. So yes, we did end up opening our emergency interconnects with Kansas City to stabilize the pressure. We were able to open 3 of 4 of them. Kansas City could not find their valve on their side for the 4th one. So
Did it move?
work to do there for sure.
Wow.
Ours had a bit of trouble opening, but it ended up being a moot point because Kansas City couldn't find theirs. Fortunately, they were able to find and open 3 of the 4.
I hope they're going to work on finding the 4th.
Yes, and that's one of our little after-action things to continue following up with them about is if we're going to have them, they need to be operable. Ours had just been operated within the last 6 months, so an interesting thing that we had trouble even on our side, but there were some questions and I tried to cover this, I know, in the council meeting on Monday, what's the difference between a boil order? A lot of people kept saying boil order, and we were all very sensitive, quit saying that because it's not a boil order, it's an advisory. The entire time it was just precautionary. We had system pressure. The line in the sand for that is 20 PSI. If your system drops below 20, anywhere in the system, then at least at that location, you have to be on boil order, which means the difference between the two is in an order, there is high risk and or confirmation that the system has been contaminated. This was an advisory, which just meant we're out of an abundance of caution. We were doing this. I've told them all. My 9-year-old, I went home and filled my water bottle, and she's like, "You can't do that, Mom." It's fine.
Yeah.
Yes, I can. It's okay. So we did. We were able to get the power back on roughly 11 hours after failure, and bring our system back online to flush out the Kansas City water and get everything back on independence. We were simultaneously pulling 16 samples. Those samples went to the lab at Courtney Bend. We have a certified lab at both Rock Creek and Courtney Bend. And we were working, of course, with Department of Natural Resources the entire time as well to make sure they were okay with our course of action and that they were willing to release us from that advisory when the samples were returned. So I am happy. That's super high level overview, but happy to answer whatever questions you have.
Any questions? Go ahead, Steve.
Question about working with DNR. Are they on site or are you communicating in there in Jeff City?
They have field people to come out on site.
Yes.
Did they visit on?
No? Okay.
They
Wondered if
tend to
were
show up on the sewer side when we have big sanitary sewer overflows. They're very quick to come out.
Sure.
But no, they have a local office just in Lee Summit,
Mhm.
so
Yeah.
they can show up whenever.
Okay.
Go ahead, Greg.
You might know where my question's going.
I can't imagine.
Is there, and I won't say just for our purpose with the school district, but is there a way to communicate quickly to the large entities for something like that? For water, sewer, electricity, hospitals, schools?
Yes. So, of all of the things that happened on Monday, communication by and large is top of the list of things to address. In conversations after the fact, apparently we have, I think I'm up to 7 different systems that have the potential to push mass notifications, but of course none of them talk to each other. and none of them have the current ability to extract customer data and use that to disseminate out. So we are looking at either or both, haven't decided yet, the ability to extract that data and use that to push a mass notification, or a massive educational and sign up drive to get people to sign up for like Rave or iPause or something like that, to be able to send out via that system. We did start contacting, our health department started contacting restaurants, hospitals, and everybody early on to talk about what you can do, what you can't do, and things like that. But obviously, there are very few of them, and it takes time to go down a list of large users.
Well, with something that large, I get a message really early in the morning that one of our schools does not have water. Okay, that's happened before, right? And so then 6-7 minutes later, you have another school, then another school, and then another school. So we're up to 9, and then we don't know, and they're all over the city. But then we have 21 that are okay, So it was really confusing for us and what to do. So I think as soon as you knew that it might have been citywide, some type of communication to us would be great.
Yep. And that was one of the other things is for instance, my house versus somebody that lives close to the square. I had full pressure all day long. I lived down in a hole, but boy, elevation was not your friend.
Yeah.
On Monday. So yeah,
that's all I was.
And honestly, that's part of this communication protocol too. If we use Rave, we can't do any kind of geofencing with those notifications. If we use iPause, we can. And so if it is an isolated area, say if it's just schools and houses in and around the square area, we can geofence that and send out a notification specially to them. Nothing that we have functioning at this moment has either enough numbers in it or the ability to extract data to do that, but that's where we're headed.
Yeah. Thanks.
Lisa, can I add something to that too?
Absolutely.
It's important to note too is when it first happened right around 6 o'clock, that first hour-ish right afterwards, we're trying to solve the problem and trying to eliminate the possibility of having an advisory. So we were still hopeful that we could solve the issue and there wouldn't be anything going out. But to your point, maybe communication to reach out to the school district specifically and say, look, we might be doing this in a little bit. You guys make the call whether you want to, stay open or close, but there's a good chance we're going to have water back. Everything will be restored by 8 o'clock. Just kind of have that open dialogue rather than an actual notification to you all.
Sure.
If you want to, we can get together afterwards and maybe have some dialogue there with who you would want us to reach out to directly just to have that conversation. Nothing official, though, that would actually be put out at that point.
Sure. And I've had that with Joe with one of their things, so that would be great.
Okay.
Because ultimately everybody calls me and wants to know what's going on.
Sure.
I didn't know.
And see, I don't even have, by the end of the day, I was, even mid-afternoon texting the superintendents, but limited number, limited numbers on our end too. So just having that contact information would be handy.
One of the notes I had down here was to talk about Rave a little bit. I know with that system, everybody that's in it's proprietary. So it's like you can't just rake the data off and use it. Once it goes in, even though it's our data, it's their data. And so you can't do it like that. You can push it out to about 20,000 people, I understand. That's not going to cover everybody.
And we don't know, so I think there's roughly 23,000 phone numbers that I'm hearing are in the system.
Yeah.
But again, we have no context.
Yeah,
with
exactly.
Who does that go to? Are they even our residents? Are they just arbitrarily signed up for a metro
A
area?
lot of them sign up for the Rave system just to get notification. Now, you can go in and build groups, like you could say all the restaurants and build a group. That just takes time to do it, and somebody's going to have to go in and edit it, monitor it all the time as things change. You could do the large customers like the school district. It's just going to take time to do it, and is Rave the right tool to be doing that?
I like some of the other options just from the geofencing capabilities and building those groups. I don't like the options that have us extracting customer data just because we do try to be very protective with that data and their potential there for that to go horribly wrong, right? Yep. So we really try to limit what systems are allowed to communicate with our billing system. And then,
the
of
Rave
course,
system doesn't communicate with it. They have to
with
go,
anything else,
they
it's
have to
separate.
go, they have
you
to
have
go
to
in and
subscribe.
input it. Yeah.
Yep. But then even when you subscribe to Rave, you don't have to tie an address to that. You just put a phone number. So there's,
It could be somebody's keeping a track of their mother that lives here and they live in Arizona. They're on the list.
correct.
They're going to get the waters out. I don't care. I'm in Arizona. So yeah, it's a a really big communication conundrum, but
Yep.
one of the things I also had met earlier today, looking at the emergency operations plan and trying to come up with a crisis communication annex to that. That was something I built when I was at KCP&L, and we could talk. We had issues pop up, somebody would get hurt, and nobody knew who was supposed to contact, what they were supposed to say, so we built all that, or I built it so that they could go in and, if it was, something like that that would impact them, that we had a specific email group it went out to, what the message was, who it came from, who's your point of contact.
Right.
That was pretty beneficial, so we can talk if you want to.
I have something to add for.
Okay,
For the electrical side, one of the most common things we hear is people usually know when their water's, or when their electric's out. That's pretty obvious. But the estimated time of restoration, right? So I know that my deputy's working with the sysops manager and working with our outage system. And I think they're targeting February currently to maybe start putting ETRs on the outage maps, so that if you could go on the outage map and see, okay, I'm in that location, and at least get a general idea of a time for restoration. It's something that they've started working on, and I think we're targeting February right now. So that might help as well.
and I think your idea too, Lisa, about an education piece. Yeah, we can get more people signed up for rave, but I think just an education piece like you talked about, a boil order versus an advisory and things like that would be a great way to communicate. Because I've asked emergency preparedness, why don't they do more social media? And I know a lot of people aren't on social media, but at least they can start getting that message out to folks and let it perpetuate from there. So it's something to consider. Go for it.
I'm just wondering, it has to have a huge effect on the hospital. How did that work?
It surely impacted their operations. They actually
Yeah.
were extremely flexible.
They were.
Rich
So I was
spent
communicating
most of
with
the
the
communications
COO
with them.
I was communicating with the COO of Centerpoint,
Yes.
and what they had a tanker truck come in to attach to a external spigot on the hospital to provide them with potable water during the outage. So yeah, that's how they handled it.
Well, and I mean, that's not grossly different than, for instance, one of our deputy fire chief in our, team's messaging that morning, was like, hey, we just got toned out on a fire. Can you get me some water? Making sure pumpers are standing by. We had contacted Kansas City. We contacted Fort Osage Fire District to make sure that their pumpers were near and available and ready to go should it be in any specific part of town that was having trouble with pressure.
Anything else? All right, thank you.
Thanks.
Now we're down to board member comments. Are we all talked out? Any other comments? Questions, concerns? Okay. Well, our next meeting is January 15th in 2026. I think it says 25. We're not going to relive this year. We're going to just move on and go to 2026. And anything before we close the meeting? Looking for a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All right, is it tie? Arm wrestle. Okay. You a second. Okay. Meeting's adjourned. Thanks, everybody.